to have tonight because I have two amazing guests, not just one. We're having a twofer tonight. I have Lecia Michelle, who is the founder and creator of Women of Color Allies, Real Talk. I'm sure I just butchered that because now that I'm saying it out loud, I feel like I said it all completely out of order, but she's going to get me straight, and she's also going to get all of us on the allyship train. And speaking of being allies, I have my good Podfest partner and podcaster joining us tonight, Jolene Jang as well, who's going to be speaking about Asian hate and how we can all join together in stopping it. So I'm very excited to bring in my two lovely guests. So I have them join me right now. So bear with me as I bring the ladies on in. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. So thank you for being brave and courageous and willing to take on this much needed heavy topic work of how we can, because it's taken on a really heavy topic and showing the mirror in a way or shining the light in places that people want to ignore or pretend aren't there. So I'm going to start with you, Lecia. What made you first get started with getting involved and starting your Facebook group? I know I butchered it, so I'm scared
It's
to say it again. I'm dyslexic, so it's like Real
and it's
Talk.
really long. It's not the easiest name. It's Real Talk, Women of Color and Allies for Racial Justice and Anti-Oppression. It is the longest name ever. I started it a month after the 2016 election when Donald Trump was elected. I actually started it partly because of that. The other reason was because I was in Pantsuit Nation with a lot of other people. And I don't know if you know how Pantsuit Nation had this huge blow up within the group because they were marginalizing Black women. You know, we were the ones who were getting a lot of criticism in that group for speaking up about racism. And one post completely went nuts and all these white people came in and it was ugly. It was really ugly. So, you know, I'm watching, I'm like, this is not a group that's going to be able to support women of color, period. So I need to start a group. So I did, started my group. And then I also said I wanted to have a space where white women would be able to learn how to be allies. So we started that. And then I would say within 7 or 8 months, we had a formal training for white women. We still do that training and it's popular. So that's how I started it.
Well, do you mind kind of delving in a little bit more into what happened with Pantsuit Nation? Only because I feel like
they don't like me, so okay.
Well, I mean, you don't have to go into particulars exactly, but I'm just saying in general, like I see it a lot on Twitter and LinkedIn and different places where people are asking to bring out, to notice a microaggression or will come out or speak out about something and get gaslit for it. And it's always kind of overlooked when it's on the left or liberal side, like, oh, you know, like, or even like with the Me Too movement, excuse me. So when you say that, I'm just wondering, while we're in the moment, if you could just maybe shed some light, unless it's an NDA involved.
No.
Like, I'm not trying to get sued. No. We can move on to Jolene explaining her start. But no, seriously. Yeah.
So Pantsuit Nation, you know, at its height, I don't know how many people are in it now, but I would say at its height, when it was around the time before and after the election, it was like 4 million people were in Pantsuit Nation. It was massive. Of course, mostly liberals, mostly white liberals. And, you know, there was this idea that, oh, we all have to just post really positive, happy things, and we should never delve into anything about racism or sexism or anything. And when you did, it was bad. You know, people going, well, this is a happy place. We don't want to hear that. It happened constantly. Then I think the post that really took it over the edge, a Black woman posted and said, I forgot what her topic was, but she only wanted Black women to comment. The white people swooped in and said she was racist and And then we're in there saying, but she's not. We just want to talk amongst ourselves. And it was really ugly. And what was frustrating is that the moderators and the administrators did not protect us in that moment, nor did they really ever in that group. So that's when I decided I'm going to start my own group, because this was not the first time. It was just, I thought, the worst experience. But and even now, I will say this is, you know, years later, I can go in there. It's exactly the same. Is exactly. If you post something in there and the white liberals get mad, if it's about racism, you are going to be called all kinds of stuff. And that, if you talk about racism, that's what makes it bad. I've heard that multiple times, including in that group. So, yeah.
Wow. And Jolene is just shaking her head in agreement. So, and I'm still so mad that we had such a great conversation yesterday. I explained to Lecia off air, but I feel like I should explain to listeners as well. Yesterday, Jolene and I had a great conversation, just me and her, about this entire situation, about, Stop Asian Hate, and just really shedding light and building allyship. So I'm just really excited that this time around, if anyone has questions, they can add them in, and know that this is a safe space, and we will not gaslight. And obviously, Jolene, I want to hear as well what made you want to speak out and get started and sharing more about this. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was just 9 days ago. So I'm out in the suburbs in Seattle, and Seattle is proper is 14% Asian. We have Amazon and Microsoft, etc. But I'm out in the suburbs. My network is 98% white. And with Atlanta, I knew this last year that there's Asian hate, but what are you going to do? I mean, there's and also you're thinking, okay, this is happening in the big cities, which is not Seattle. This is in New York and San Francisco. And it's just like, well, I don't, what do you do? However, with Atlanta, it's like, oh, news is covering it now. Okay. Well, this is ridiculous. This needs to stop. And I understand, because I'm Asian, it's like I understand that 5.9% Asian Americans, that it's not enough. Even if everyone said we're going to fight or something like that, it's not going to happen. It won't. That's not enough people. And understanding that only a few Asians will feel comfortable enough to say anything, that we really need everybody else. We need the majority population. Now, so I figured I do have a voice, and I'm going to use it, and I have to use it. So, so here I am.
No, I'm glad you are, because when you were shaking your head along with Lecia, I was wondering, what were you thinking? Like, did you have a similar experience with Pantsuit Nation directly, or just another organization as well?
Not heard of Pantsuit Nation, but just on my network. And I have a lot of, my network is really super nice people, a lot of techies, but I also have, people who I don't really know from way back when. And so just the idea of posting an article or video about Stop Asian Hate, showing a news piece or a video talking about it, it's like, oh, there is no engagement with it. Zero. I mean, I was like, then I started flooding. I'm like, what the heck? And it's just like, people want, it's not happy. Like, we like your fun, fluffy things. And I'm like, and it's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I talked to my, really good friend. I'm like, how about, she was like, oh, how about Start Asian Love? And I'm like, maybe that's a companion phrase. And it had a yellow background, like my skin. And then it was just like,
oh, great. Reconfirm that stereotype. You're not even thinking out loud.
Well, and so the idea is like
fantasizing or fetishizing, excuse me.
Yeah. And it's like, let's ignore the hate, because we don't want to know, because it's negative. And then let's just sweep it under the rug and say, like, it's not that, let's just bring love. And I'm like, that does not identify the problem or what you can do. And I think that's a lot of, I have a lot of do-gooder, super great friends. But I'm like, oh boy, like I'm like feeling like, oh my God, who do I talk to? I can't call my Asian American friends, because it's a whole thing. And so I've reached out back to like Asian Americans from like 20, 30 years ago. I'm like, hey, because I know that they're in Asian groups. And so I know that they're going to be on board, but it's a tough fight.
Now, I think that's something that's unique to the Asian community as well. Why do you think that is? Because, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like, a lot of times I feel like the saying, I can't fight for you any harder than you would fight for yourself. So with the Asian community not speaking up, in like 2016 is when Lecia and I started noticing things changing very rapidly, probably before then, when Trump started the birther and all of that stuff. 2008, actually, things started getting really hot.
It was 2008 when the white lash happened, when Obama took office. Like we knew then, and we were saying, if Trump wins, XYZ is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then we sat back and we're like, it started in 2008. Definitely.
Yeah. For sure. So that's like, when did things get to the point for you? I mean, obviously all of the different things that have happened lately, it's just like 800% higher Asian violence, or violence towards Asians. But when did you start noticing maybe in your everyday networking, or just things were more uncomfortable, or maybe people said more things that were inappropriate around you?
So I am very COVID safe, and so I do not leave the walls of my studio. And then in terms of like Asian Americans, so I have 1% of, let's say, 1,400 people. 1% is Asian American, very confident in tech people. But they're, unless they're an activist, I looked, it's maybe different 9 days later, but they're not saying anything. And so I was like, okay, what's going on here? Then I went to the Asian resources. So the Asian, like there's Next Shark, there's Asian American News, and they're the only ones who cover this because it's not a big deal. And so when people are shot, et cetera, it's not covered. And so I went out to see what's really happening and talked to a lot of Asian Americans. And I forgot what your question was. I get so bad. I'm like so heated up here.
I'm still waiting for it to get answered. No, I'm kidding.
I'm reading.
You were there. You were almost there.
And I'm seeing like all the violence. I'm like, oh, there's more than Atlanta and the powerful granny who took out that little white guy. I mean, I'm looking. No, these are multiple daily violence of shootings and killings and deaths, and these are a 19-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 27-year-old, and this girl was peed on. This is all just the last 6 days, and so there is a ton, but it's not in the main news because we only represent less than 6%. So what kind of dollars, what kind of ratings, and nobody cares. It's like there's no attachment to that Chinese man who doesn't speak English.
Yeah, but when did you notice, like, even in your day-to-day life? Because I mean, I feel like all this violence, like there was a slow progression to it, and that was what my question was just wondering, did you notice that beforehand, or just from just now looking, you started realizing?
No, just
violence, but there was never any, like, you never felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I seriously don't leave my home. And so
not since 2008 though. I'm not talking just this month, just in life in general. Was there ever a time you noticed things started getting, like with Trump's presidency, and there was no changes in your life?
I mean, with Trump, of course, ridiculous. But in terms of, I'm in Seattle, so there are a lot of Asians represented, but I would say it was just the last 9 days. And so it is happening here. And then seeing a couple of my friends that like, oh, her grandma was yelled at, who's like 90 or something, and she was chased. And then another friend who has a donut shop, there was a gal who went in and didn't want to pay the price, and then was like, we should kill you. That's why we have internment camps. You should all die. And then another friend was just yelled at a few days ago also. And it's like, well, what if my guy friend wanted to like get out of the car and do something about it and be macho, would he be here? So the thing is, like, to answer your question, it's like Asians are usually probably not going to say anything. So I have to go and find in the smaller what's happening. I have to go find it because we're not going to complain. Right? Because it's like a lot of people have guilt. Asian Americans like, well, it's not as bad as Black Lives Matter. They're, killed and lynched every day, and a pregnant lady face down. It's like, it's not that bad. And so many of us don't want to say anything because of that.
No. Okay. Now that you bring up a great transition to even ask Lecia about that, because we mentioned that it started to get a little bit hotter than usual in 2008, but in 2016 it was like it went from the oven to the frying pan.
To 2008. So, like I said, we knew 2008 that when Obama won and you started seeing white supremacists in this country, burning him in effigy and calling him all. It was terrible, but it wasn't it wasn't where it got in 2016. I mean, I noticed a shift just in my day-to-day life walking around, and I had just moved to the South, and not that the South is like the haven of all the races, because it's not, but it was definitely uncomfortable around people who were obvious, very Confederacy support. I mean, like the flags and everything. It was just very uncomfortable. So I felt it. I didn't have anything happen, thankfully, but I certainly felt a shift kind of in the environment around me, and it was terrifying. And I think it was really scary about it, aside from the fact that, it was Trump supporters, it was people on the left not really paying a lot of attention for a while and not really understanding what non-white people, and Black and brown people, Asian people, natives, like we were all seeing it and saying, this is getting bad.
Well, I'm even the anti-Semitism as well with the Tree of Life. Like it was just every day it was a new group that was the target, LGBTQ with the shootings. But I also feel like the source of a lot of that was the media feeding into it too, and that's why I wanted to address in a way that I think would be a great way to explain how important it is about representation and reiterating those negative stereotypes that make it so easy to dehumanize people of color, that makes what happened in Atlanta or the Tree of Life or George Floyd, makes it so easy to just count it as a number, a hashtag or whatever. And 9 days later, no one cares anymore. But this is our everyday life. And today happens to be April Fool's Day, but it also is the start of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And on that same level of, it's not every man, but every woman is scared of that. So it's not every white person or person walking around, but it's every person of color that has that burden of wondering, or person LGBTQ, or someone that has that extra burden of wondering if it's their turn next. So I'm wondering, how do we make that shift, since media was kind of like, I'm not blaming it, but I'm just saying it's one of those things that can really help maybe change the narrative. And you women are so versed in this, there'd be a great opportunity to hear from you what you think could really make those differences, or what things they're already doing that's really helping change that narrative already.
Did you want
to? You can leave, Lecia.
So are we talking about what the media has or has
Nation does not have any fans in the comments.
No.
And feel free, if there's any questions, I will get to them later on. So feel free to go ahead and put them in there. I will definitely try to get to them.
If we're talking about the media's responsibility and what happened, Trump has been out of office for a few months now, and they're doing the exact same type of reporting they've been doing all along. It's very easy for non-Black people to look at Black people and believe absolutely every stereotype about us based on what they see in the media, and it's a very hard thing to fight. I mean, I know in my everyday life, I've had questions. People are surprised that at the time, I was not married at 36. You're not married? You don't have kids?
Yeah.
You went to college? You went to college? Yeah. It's like, you went to school? Really? It's the stereotypes that they buy into that are so incredibly frustrating. And, what ends up happening is that when we're going out into our careers and we're going out into the world, it just makes it exponentially harder when the media portrays us in this very narrow, false way, and then we have to overcome that to be seen as, not equal, because we're not seen as equal, but seen at least as a human being, versus some odd representation of every Black person. Like, I don't represent every Black woman. Right. That doesn't make any sense. But yet we carry that burden as Black women, that if I present myself XYZ, well, that's all Black women then, right? It's like, no, it is not all Black women, and it tells me a lot about the fact that a lot of people that are not within our community are not making a lot of effort to know us individually, because they're very quick to jump on those bandwagons. You know, I will not watch the George Floyd trial. I already know what's going to happen as far as the testimony. I hope that that man's convicted, but I don't want to see all of the damning comments about him and him being on trial. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear it. You know, I didn't even watch the video.
And at the same time, it feels so sick to watch it, knowing that there's people profiting off it, like the advertisements and all that. You're like, somebody still died. It's like such a gross. Yeah. I don't know. I was in college during the O.J. Simpson trial, and I was at an predominantly white Southern Baptist all-girls school, all-girls women's college. Do not recommend. Like, oh God, I still am traumatized when I drive by it. I'm like, oh, like if I could avoid the college, I do. I don't even like the name. It's not that hard. I feel bad for people that have that name, but that is partial the reason why I don't watch Grey's Anatomy. Meredith is the name of the school, but anyway, you know, it's just, it was really hard. Like everyone blamed me for OJ. I'm like, I don't even know OJ. I didn't even know he played football. I thought he was just the naked gun guy. So I'm just like, why is this such a big deal? But everybody was mad because their soap operas were off. So I don't even want to know how people are reacting to all of this and can justify things that are on videotape that everyone saw. And there's like more than one angle. So I've seen like a little tidbits here and there in the news, but it's still like, I don't want to relive that. Like, I feel like Black trauma has become entertainment to a point that it's exhausting, as well as like the women abuse in a way. Cause this year was like the year of narcissistic men just breaking women down in some of the films I watched anyway. And I was just like, I'm tired of watching that kind of stuff that just makes it seem like, oh, well, maybe my life isn't so bad. No, maybe he's still bad. They're just making this seem so normal and normalizing it. And I'm sure it's the same with you, Jolene, like we were talking a little bit yesterday. So please say it again today. Like, how does it affect you with the different ways Hollywood is, whether good or bad in that sense, you know, because you had some great examples of positive things it's doing too. Yeah.
So when I was growing up, because I think we're all the same age, is that there weren't any Asian. I mean, there's Bruce Lee, you know, and Jet Li wasn't on the scene yet, or Jackie Chan came later, but it's like, okay, where are the Asian role models? There's 3 karate people. Or, you know, it's like, or Wang Chung, and it's just, there weren't any Asian role models. Luckily in Seattle, there was a reporter, Lori Matsukawa, who went to my wedding, and like I interviewed her like 20 years later. But there were no role models. And when there isn't, it's like, how do you know you can be? And so recently I'm very pleased with Netflix that they have about 8 shows that I've seen. I don't watch a lot, but I forced myself, and I was really pleased, where they have more than one Asian on it. Like, and some of them like 4 to 8. And they have a male lead who's popular and good looking. They have an Indian girl who's like also the lead. And it's just like they're playing, there was like a jerk, like a rich Asian jerk who's popular. I'm like, what? And so neurotypical, and a couple of moments I want to share on social distancing. This was early on. There was a show with 8 episodes, and it's kind of a fishbowl into 8 different situations. And one of them, they had a teenage Chinese American gamer, and she liked this guy, and they were like Snapchatting and everything. But then she saw on some other feed, he was talking about Kung Flu, you know, China virus, and yeah, they should die. And then, so she was really sad about that. And I could not believe that they actually addressed this, because that's race. Oh my gosh. And so I was pleased by that. And then another show, let's see, George and Ginny, that just came out. It's a series.
I watched that.
Okay. So I thought, you know, it's teenage movies, which is weird. That's not something I normally watch, but I thought it was really good. And there was the moment. So the main character, Ginny's the girl, right?
Jenny's the daughter.
Yeah. So she is black and white, and then her boyfriend is Taiwanese and white. And there's a moment where like, well, you're not black enough. Well, you're not Asian enough. They're so mixed. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this was addressed in anywhere. And I mix too. And I'm like, oh wow, I've not heard that in front of my face. But so that was a moment. And so there's been a number of these shows that are. Oh, one more. I got to tell you one more. So there's a movie called Moxie, and it's like a 16-year-old girl, and she was voted like most obedient, and she was mad about that. So she's doing this like rise up, feminist thing, and her best friend is Chinese American. And there was a moment where they're trying to protest and, maybe not wear a bra and wear a tank top or something. And the Chinese girl was trying to do that, but she couldn't because her mom wouldn't let her. And was suffering. And, her white friend was like, come on, what's your problem? And she's like, you're white. You don't understand. And it was just like, oh, again. So that gives me hope. And also for all the upcoming movie Hollywood stars, like on Marvel, Olivia Munn and, oh gosh, I just remember. Oh yeah. So there's Daniel Day Kim and Diane Doan, and Hari is a comedian, and Chloe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there's a number of these young folks who are really speaking out about Stop Asian Hate. And a lot of them are mixed, and they're now claiming their heritage because they may have a Western name to kind of hide that so they can not be limited. Charles Melton, he is now saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm claiming my Korean heritage. What could I have done, to stop this? And now he's speaking out. And so there is some hope there. There's not enough people, but at least these people have followers. And so I feel like there's at least that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was even realizing, because when we talked yesterday, when you were speaking of all these things, like I was like, oh yeah, I could only think of like Connie Chung, and like thinking back to my own, like, we're so used to just thinking, even like we had Diane Carroll and Diana Ross, like we did have some out there, but at the same time, when you like, I remember there was a lady on Star Trek, but that was also our first lady was on
Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
Nichelle Nichols.
So it's like Star Trek really is like where everything happens. But I think it's important to share how media can really, once you see yourself on screen and really hear yourself, the importance of having writers and directors that are writing these stories that really shed light on how we're impacted in our lives, where you can get that slice of life to see the similarities or make that point of what I like about social distancing and Moxie, unlike Blackish or Mixedish, it's a show that's for everyone in a way, where it's like given that platform where it's kind of a Trojan horse, so everyone can get a little lesson, as opposed to maybe with Blackish, you would have to seek it out. Because I didn't ever think of this until a girlfriend of mine, a few years back, I started this business called The Hot BF. It was a website where you could find the latest beauty finder. Like, I was an esthetician, so I was always having a hard time every time I moved, finding a hairstylist, finding a massage. Like, I just was tired. I was like, I need like a Facebook page type thing, but just for beauty professionals, so I could find them and I could see their work, and like it would be like comments legitimate, whatever. Anyway. So in the process of doing that, I asked for friends to send in photos for me to use so I could just, make a website and start promoting it to get hairstylists to get on it and so on. And so I have, my friends are like the colors of Benetton. I have a friend in every color, every race, every gender, I have one of each. But only my Black friends really sent in pictures, and I didn't even notice it, but I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm just putting in pictures as they come in. And some of my Indian friends sent in pictures. And then my best friend is a gay male, and he does makeup for a lot of people. So he sent me a lot of his clients' pictures, but it was still predominantly Black. And sorry for the long story, but I have to paint the whole picture. And then a lady, when I was saying I was still looking for different people to get involved, she was like, well, is it for everyone or just Black people? Because I only see Black people on it. And I'm like, 98% of the movies, Hallmark cards, never have Black people on it. But I don't say, oh, I can't go to this because my face isn't on it. So it just started making me realize, like, wait, they don't even see our stories. They don't even know about The Wiz or, like, and different things. Like, I was lucky enough to watch Bollywood in different, because I had satellites in Canadian TV. So I was watching Asian shows, Korean soap operas, a little bit of everything. Plus I grew up overseas, but I'm just curious for you ladies, what was your experience like as far as trying to start the allyship and speaking to different people about your experience and them just not really understanding? How are you able to make that shift where they see it and understand it, if like the way movies can do it? Or do you just say, hey, watch this show and then come back to me? Because wow.
Yeah, I learned early on, probably 20 years ago, that if I'm going to have conversations with white people about race or racism, it's going to go badly like 95% of the time. You're going to get gaslit really badly. You're going to be told that you're playing the race card. You're a racist. You're exaggerating. I don't believe your story. Like, all of those things are going to happen. So I already knew when I started my group that I did not want Black women or any women of color in that group to be responsible for educating the white women, because I knew it was just too traumatic. It's very traumatic to have to do that. So, one thing that I have just learned, running Real Talk and just, paying attention to these conversations around race, is I tell white people, since you created racism, you need to work with each other and figure out how to fix it. There are plenty of Black women having conversations about racism. There are lots of people of color writing about it, speaking about it, whatever. It's all out there. You can seek out that information on your own. But to me, it seems like when they are talking amongst each other, they listen. If I'm having that conversation, they're really busy thinking about how to defend themselves and tell me that my lived experience was not that. I told somebody, we were having a conversation about being called the N-word, and all of us Black people, we all have the story of the first time that happened. And I'm like, I was 7 years old when this white girl said it to me. And someone said to me, did that really happen? Did you make that up? And I'm like, why would I ever make up something that I remember it like it happened yesterday, because it was so incredibly traumatic, So I've just made the decision that I will provide you resources. I'll even tell you what Black women are educating. I'll do some education, but I expect you to work with other white people, educate them, educate yourself, work on your own internal racism, work on that white supremacy that you love, work on your privilege. And then once you do all of that, things will change, because the way things are going, as far as demanding that we educate you, that never works. And anytime I've had a white person say, well, if I'm not doing this right, then you need to tell me what I need to be doing. It's all
having like flashbacks of Sharon Osbourne. Well, tell me.
Yeah,
I did wrong.
Yes, and when she said that, I was like, I've heard that a million times, and I can't even think of one time that conversation went well. Not one time that person actually listened to me. So at this point, I just need numbers. We just need more white people who are on board. So if it works best that they educate each other, which I think it does, I'm pushing that. And like I said, my group, we say that is the rule. White women work with white women in the group. That's it. Don't ask anybody else. Don't ask women of color to educate you. We're not doing that. If they offer to help you, great. Don't ask them. We're not doing that. So,
okay.
So I think I have how this is really different. And so people are trained, like my group, my network, LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, women's right, we're out marching. Like, I'm not marching, but like, there's a lot of, yes, we're strong, independent women, except for Stop Asian Hate. And the thing is, I feel like, oh man, just nobody cares. Well, I know they care, but they're not courageous enough to like reach out because they don't want to be in the wrong. And so how this is very different than Black culture is, for Black culture, you know, like I've read a ton of books, documentaries, and I go out to the Black community where I'm the only minority, and I just kind of observe, listen, and ask questions, and like, oh, how's it going? But for the Asian community, there are not movies. I mean, there's documentaries just now and a few, but they're not easily accessible. You wouldn't know about it. And books about Asian Americans, there are, but where do you find them? Are they on audiobook? And so there's so many limited information. There is, of course, history, which people will not be that interested in, but it's so limited. And so in this case, we need our allies to reach out to us and say, how are you? You know, and what can I do? And then if there's an Asian, let's say, who was like, you know, I'm processing right now, ask Jolene. Like, the thing is, it's so hard. I don't expect majority people to do the work because it's so hard to figure out where it is. And so, you know, there's resources, but like I wouldn't even know where to start. And so people are scared to reach out. And so that is the problem, because on this side, we feel silent. And I've been combing 13,000, I'm on this group with 13,000 Asian Americans, and I'm reading all these things. And there's a couple of posts that's like, is it just me, or do your friends suck? Like nobody has reached out to me. 0, 0, 0. And it's even guys are saying this. Asian males who, in my experience, do not share thoughts or feelings. And so, and it's just like, I'm not alone, because I was mad, because I am begging my network. Now my network is kind of coming around now, but it's after like 60 posts later. And so this is so different. And so we need people to reach out to us, because Asians are not going to reach out to anybody. I mean, unless they're activists, it's not going to do it. And even if you ask us, like, we may not say anything, because we don't want you to feel awkward. And so, you know, so that's the challenge. One of them.
And it's interesting because I don't know if Lecia, if you had the same experience, but after George Floyd, like I had a flood of people calling or texting, and it just felt like so fake and you know, so like I didn't
felt invasive.
Like it was like
invasive. Yeah.
And because it wasn't genuine, maybe from some of them it was like genuine, like, how are you, like, you need a hug. You know, like I'm sure this has to be heavy for you. But then there were some where it's just like, what do I do? How do I help? Like Google, how, like I'm supposed to know everything just because I'm Black, you know, like I don't know. I can Google it just as quickly as you can. I'm watching the video at the same time you are. You know, like I'm not from there, you know, I don't know this guy. It just happened the same time. So I'm glad that you're mentioning that you do want people to reach out, because with some of my Asian friends, like we talk on a regular basis, but I was like, God, I was torn. And so I'm glad that you mentioned it, because now I feel a little bit better about, you know, I just do what's on my heart, and they know my intent, because it wasn't so much a matter of wanting to feel like I was like, hey, by the way, I care about, you know, I was just like, how are you feeling? Like, this has to be heavy, because we were like, I started off about something completely different at first, because I didn't want to like ambush her. She was getting 300 messages a day. Like, we're not, but you know, we are not. So hearing that, it's like, oh, well, let me text more friends then. I definitely felt the need to make sure I put out as much Stop Asian Hate as I did with Black Lives Matter and Trans Lives Matter, because I feel I love somebody in every one of those categories, not like because of their proximity, I should care, but it's just like, there's no reason to hurt someone because of who they love or how they look. Like, it's just, for me, it just seems so hurtful and hateful that I just can't sit by and not say anything or do something. So I'm, again, glad that you said that. So now I know we need to all send out a love chain to all of our Asian and Asian passing friends, or non-Asian passing friends, for that matter.
I would call them, because the thing is, I mean, there's like 100 people had said the same thing. And then I have a couple of activist friends. They're like, yeah, nobody, you know, there's 3 people. And it's just like, we don't get this, right? Because it's Asians, we have the stereotypes. And so people aren't, and also they were trained with Black Lives Matter to, like, you know, do it a certain way and to not. And so so my white friends in general just don't do anything.
They're like
And
scared
so-
of losing followers again, probably too, because that was
Yeah.
one thing I heard that like I lost so many followers when I
Oh my
did the Black
God.
Square, but it was worth it. Okay, girl. You lost bots, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think within my group, we're very diverse. Real Talk has, every ethnicity and race in our group. And I think one thing that we are good at is we reach out to each other regularly when something goes down. Because we have had so many deep conversations about what's going on in the news, what's going on in someone's personal life. Like there are some of us who've known each other for the entire 4 or 5 years I've had the group. That's how close we are, So for us to have those conversations within Real Talk just makes perfect sense. But I agree that once you go out into the world or you go onto something that's not a group that is supportive, like if I go on Twitter, it's just a bunch of people saying the comments on anything about
I don't want to read
anything.
the news comments locally.
Yeah, I don't read comments anymore. They just make me
I don't even watch the news anymore now that there's a new presidency. It's like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah,
like,
I still watch. I just watch, but I don't watch with my heart palpitations anymore, waiting for him to say something terrible.
True. I do watch Trevor Noah on a regular basis, but I don't watch like everyday news anymore because I don't feel the need of like, okay, can I go to the grocery store today or not?
Yeah. Who has he? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I would like to make a shout out to Trevor Noah because I remember listening to an interview. I'm a big fan. And when I went to South Africa, I'm like, oh yeah. But he has interviewed so many people of color and women and a lot of Asian women that we never would have heard of. Chanel Miller, Know My Name. She was the one who's raped by that white, all-American white guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That the swimmer guy, the swimmer dude who went to him.
Yeah, and
oh wait, the buck? Not what was his name?
No, the one who the dumpster he raped her.
Right, he had like the very
that guy.
frat boy name.
So
speaking of stereotypes,
Chanel Miller is the one who
I didn't realize she was Asian.
Yeah, and so I learned about hers, and there's another. He just did a compilation of all the Asians that before it was trendy actually. And I so appreciate giving a voice because Asians are just, it's not popular, and so, yeah, so he's a good dude.
I think Trevor Noah's show is doing a really great job of integrating social justice in a comedic way that makes people think.
Yeah.
And I had the wonderful joy of meeting Roy Woods a few times. And it's just like, I love that have that ability to really try to make a difference. So granted, I felt like the guy before him did a good job too, but because they can bring it from a person of color perspective, there's, like you said, they're bringing in those layers where you can see yourself, and they make the point of getting stories that maybe somebody else would have overlooked because they wouldn't even know existed or needed. And I'm in the group National Association of Black Journalists here in the Raleigh-Durham area, and they were just talking about even how difficult it is in the news office room or in the newsrooms where they're pitching different stories, but because there's no producers of color or directors of color, they're like, I don't think we should cover that. Like, we don't want to, get people upset, or is everybody care about that? Like it's real easy, like the gaslighting or different things. So I'm glad that Trevor Noah, different people like that are doing it on a national level. So they're still getting integrated to the masses and hopefully middle America, because so many things are catered to middle America. And even, as you said earlier, like majority. And the funny thing is like, they're not the majority anymore. And we're still programmed into thinking that if we worked as a sisterhood, or even in that sense, like a family of people of color, where we just generally work together to try to change these laws that keep us all underneath, maybe that's not the only way, but even with film in that sense, like, I just don't know what the right answer is, but I have you wonderful ladies to share some light on what you think could be some changes made or hopes for the future.
Well, I think we have to recognize that The problem, the symptoms are what we're seeing right now. It's all the violence and the hatred and the George Floyds and all of that. And the problem is that we are a white supremacist society. This country just is founded on white supremacy and racism. And until we really address that power structure in this country, we don't have a chance in hell of changing it. We could all get together, and because of that, and the fact that, being privileged and having that power puts them at such an advantage for particularly Black people, we don't have the tools to be able to fight that. We would have to go out to vote like we do, replace those people, get those powers, get people there who are really going to fight to address the fact that if we don't get away from this history in this country, that whiteness is the norm and whiteness is what you kind of want to attain, then we can't change it, and we have to really discuss, racism and even within people of color. It's like, we're not all together. We are not all together. We have to start having those discussions about why it is that within people of color that we're fighting, and we're not hearing each other. We're not supporting each other, and that's part of the problem. But I think a lot of it just stems from, this country is really based on a white supremacist society that says, if you follow what we believe and if you uphold it, even if you're not white, we're going to give you something for doing that. And what seems to happen is that something that they get hits the people at the bottom the hardest. And that would be Black people and really Indigenous people in this country. So,
yeah, definitely yeah.
I have 4 things that I wrote notes because I probably will forget. So you were talking about you can work so hard and it's still like can't happen. I was doing an interview with one of the admins who runs at 13,000 people, and he's been involved with so many things and he's super smart. I have to watch it in slow speed. And he was saying our goal in 10 years is to get 26 Asian Americans in Congress, and that you just at this rate or something, in 10 years, then we'll get some more. And it's like, yeah, we need everybody because we're only, 5.9 and it's ridiculous. And then back to your question, Camille, about, what can we do? It was 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I created Aren't Asians All Alike? Kind of a snarky thing. And to share, because I am in Seattle where there are a lot of Asians, and but we're not getting, they're not getting participation in the meeting. Well, because you have to speak up. So what Amazon is doing is they actually have people write down ideas too. And so figuring out how everybody can participate. And so this program, I'm like, oh, Aren't Asians All Alike? It's so necessary if they want to keep their employees happy in a safe place. My friend who's, white privilege and a CEO, et cetera, and all this, he's like, well, first of all, it's not a problem. And I don't know if anybody's going to, all the friends are the white GMs of the big companies. He's like, I don't think you have anything there. I'm like, oh, and true. So the people hiring would probably be like, nah. But now I think there is something.
Well, I was going to say, and that makes a good point that if you finally get in the door, even if you can't bring others inside with you, you speak up. So opportunities like that don't go missed, yeah. So sorry, keep going with your notes.
So the Aren't Asians All Alike, because there are so many, and I know, I'm Japanese 4th generation, third of Swedish and Chinese. And so I don't have a language. I mean, I know some sign language, a little bit of Spanish, but because my mom was born World War II time, she was not taught Japanese, and my grandma was not supposed to speak any Japanese. Plus my grandma was born here. And so I know that I don't represent, on the census, there's 23 Asian countries, areas represented, and I'm 4th generation. And so there's 1st and 2nd and 3rd. I know that I don't represent everybody. And so what I'm doing is I'm doing these 2 Asians talking. And I am putting on the camera and having these conversations like we are here so people can see Asians talking, because I don't think they have that. And to see, because I'm going to talk to an Asian different than I'm going to talk to you.
Right.
And so, and also they're not going to be, most of them won't be comfortable being on camera at all. But if we're just talking and it's recorded, then it's a different thing. And so I'm trying to share as many voices. And then earlier on, you asked about how can you, get some momentum here. I am trying to reflect the audience. And because my audience is 98% white, I'm like, okay, I need a male who's 65. And so people can see them in that seat. And so the other day I had this recorded conversation with a cowboy who lives on a ranch. And I had him ask me questions. And so his following of 2,000 on Facebook, then they're like, oh, yeah, what's he up to? Okay. Oh, Stop Asian Hate, what's that? And so, and I reached out to Lisa K, Everyday Yay. So she's in Wisconsin. And so I had her ask from her training position and she's an ally. Lecia, I should introduce you. She's incredible and very funny. So from the LGBTQ plus side, so we had that conversation. So I'm trying to get like people, so then they could relate to their like person of there and then see me unlike them. So.
No, that's fantastic. I love that you're doing that, because the way we met was through Podfest, and I'm a Trojan horse every chance I get. One of the joys of having a white husband is that I get to go into these places where people are shocked that he has a Black wife. And so I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm also a feminist. And like, I'm going to call you out on your stuff if the opportunity comes up. And he does a lot of these union meetings where we got to meet a lot of politicians. So of course it gave me the opportunity to talk about everything that I care about. And HB2 was a law that was going around in North Carolina. That was a bathroom law, which, but it affected the film industry as well, which is the industry that I used to work in. I'm making jokes because COVID killed it too. But my point is that it's so incredibly easy to just make that difference of speaking up and speaking out and getting more people to listen. But at the same time, we need people, like you said, you got to open the door. So at Podfest, I made a point of saying that you have to have global voices on your panels, on your in your boardrooms and so on, because otherwise you're missing opportunities. Whether a few years back it was the Dolce & Gabbana where they did or maybe it was Prada. It was one of these designers that did a very racist
Gucci. It was a sweater.
Gucci.
Yeah.
Well, no. There was one that they did against Hong Kong and Korean, and it was like reiterating like geisha lifestyle. And then there was the sweater, and then there was the t-shirt. But there's just so many of those different conversations, just the simplest things. But at the same time, it seemed like, wait, they're profiting even more, because maybe that's like all the racists are like, hey, now I know where to shop. Or like at the same time, it's like all the people who are making those shirts are usually people of color that are creating a lot of those things. So it's like they might not be the designers, but that's the problem. Even with that, like, why aren't there more people of color designers, or just getting more into those fields of creating the stories and doing the work that you ladies are doing? And I'm just so excited that we were able to have this conversation and share about that. But I want to also speak of what you're doing as far as in the future and how people can keep in contact and keep the momentum. Like, we don't want to stop. This is 2021. This is the year of the iron ox, the car we're all getting in. Did you guys see that? No, just me. Okay. It was on Saturday Night Live. They threw in the token Asian guy to talk about Asian. And he was like, man, I don't know. I'm from New York or whatever. He's like, I just know it's like the year of the ox, and we're all getting in and we ride at dawn because nobody messes with Asian grandmas. And so I was, okay, I'm going to go
I
ahead.
will watch that.
It's really funny. I didn't get to see the whole show yet, but I saw that one clip and I was like, because I DVR it. So it's like, I don't get to watch shows for my pleasure, but when I do, Saturday Night Live is definitely one of the tops since I was a kid. So, and I would sneak behind the couch to watch. So anyway, but back to you ladies, what is in the future for you? And I know, Lecia, you have a book coming. So let's start with that, because that's coming out. You just recently announced it. So let's share that.
Yeah,
Jolene,
so excited. I'm really excited about it. I'm waiting for my pub date. So once I have it, I will tweet it out. And I'm on Twitter, Lecia Michelle 11, if you want to follow me. I talk a lot about race. So if you don't want to hear about that, don't follow me. The name of the book is The White Allies Handbook, the 4-week journey to... It's got a long title. The 4-week journey. You don't like to do things the short way. I know, I really don't. Basically, it's a 4-week introduction to fight racial justice with Black women. That's basically what it is. So it is regimented into 4 sections. So you need to follow it and do it in 4 weeks if you can. I'm still running Real Talk, and that's my Facebook group, which I love. And a lot of my ladies, I think, are in the chat right now.
Yeah, I realized. I was like, oh wait, I gotta still do the questions.
My ladies.
So I'll rush
my ladies
through
in the chat. Yeah, so I'm still doing that. And we also do a fair amount of just informal fundraising within the group. So I think just since 2016, I think we're into easily 6 figures of money right now. And we typically, we will support. Yeah, thank you. And we're not a nonprofit. I don't want to get into all of that stuff. I like to talk politics. So I don't want to do a nonprofit. Yeah, so it's a lot of money, but what we do is we do a Christmas drive.
Congratulations.
We do like a Women of Color holiday fund where we will.
I know you guys do like Cash App things every once in a while.
Yeah, we do Cash App things, but typically we really try to support women of color in the group. So if they have an emergency, like we bought somebody a wheelchair, we've done that. We've paid people's bills. We've bought presents for kids. I mean, we'll do any of that. And we will pair up with other groups, to see what they're doing and try to join in with their fundraising efforts too. But really, I just want to keep talking about being an ally. I wrote the book because we're in 2021, Trump's out of office, but that didn't change much really. So we really need to start talking about allyship and what that means. And we have to, if you're going to be an ally, you have to open your mouth and speak up about it. It's not just you reading a bunch of books. You have to, every chance you see it, you hear it, you have to say it. You have to say what's going on. You have to challenge the person that's doing it. Yes, it's scary, but that is what allyship is. It's action. It's not you reading some book on racism. It's not going to do anything.
It's not.
Or a hashtag.
Or a hashtag, or a blackout Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, don't tag me in it. Please don't tag me.
Performative. That's awesome.
But you know what?
We're going to do a blackout sale. Don't tag me.
However,
we'll block you.
What's different here is like, oh my gosh, if anybody changed, I created a frame, Facebook frame, because there weren't any. And I'm like, I would be so pleased if I just saw 1 out there or 2. And so it's like, whether they care or not, oh my gosh, at least 1 more person will know about it. I mean, so the thing is, like, Black Lives Matter is so much more organized. I mean, it's really, so it's kind of funny how different it is.
I look, there was these different signs that really, I felt like hit it in a way where, for Black people, it was like, they love our jazz, but not our blues. And then for Asian, it was like, they love our food, but not our people. And I was just like, ouch.
Well, I mean, even with Black people, one things that we say is that, other races really love Black culture, but they don't like Black people.
Yeah.
I went on the Soul Train, by the way, Lecia.
I love Soul Train.
I was one of the 7 out of the 2,000 people. So anyways.
I need to see that.
Oh, I have videos. Actually,
I need to see that.
Please share that link.
Yeah, we need to see that.
And by the way,
to see that now that you said that on air.
Yeah, and one of the things, I am going to reach out to Sir Mix a lot. He's in my area. And I did reach out to DJ Nasty Ness, who was the first Asian.
One of my friends opened for him here in North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
She has a connection. Well, anyway, go ahead.
So, because I was like, okay, my friend Tanya was like, why don't you talk to Sir Mix-a-Lot? I'm like, yeah. So I'll contact him. I already said a thing to DJ Nasty Ness. But I want that to happen because he has a bigger following.
And he's got a big technology thing too, right? He does a lot of startups and stuff. So
Yeah, and then Dougie
that one.
Fresh, I'm going to contact him too, and I do have his number, and I, you know, he's not super attentive, and he's doing really well. I would like to say after he met me, he did a lot more social media. I'm very proud of him. And so I was thinking if I can have Dougie Fresh Instagram interview me, maybe I can get on Jada Pickett's Red Table Talk. And some other, so that's kind of one of the things that I'm hoping to do probably the next week or two. Let's see. So what am I working on? Sheesh. Well, I was going to try and get some business here, like with a new service as a curiosity catalyst, because I'm quite creative, and change, I can adapt. And when companies are going back to work, they're going to be a mess. It's like, are you vaccinated? Oh, shoot, I can't say that. Are we at the same table? How far? And it's just going to be a mess. And so I wanted to help with the integration, creating the standard operating procedures for that, and creating the new normal and the new how people are going to function. And then after I'm in there, then I want to talk about how do you capitalize on your curiosity, and how to build your curiosity muscles. How can we get creative? And I do this by pushing out. I mean, that's like, I went to Burning Man, you know, as a person who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, I'm not naked, like, you know, as straight as a board, like, you know, I do these different things because I learn a lot. And so I will share with employees how you can get job security by doing different things, by inviting different perspectives. And Camille, you do such a beautiful job of bringing your Benetton people together. And today, and then last thing, as I hogged the last piece here.
But I was okay. I'm like, oh, I forgot about the questions, but they were all beautiful and wonderful. It was mainly a lot of compliments, and then just reconfirming that Pantsuit Nation is a horrible place to go. It's not safe. And I want to shout out, I really have to, because North Carolina being in the South and being kind of a purple area, we have a group called Raleigh Liberal Moms. It's a semi-safe space. Like, for the most part, they're really good of, like, if Black women are speaking, or if Muslim women are speaking, or in our area, it's a lot of Asian here as well. So it's like, if it's any woman of color, BIPOC speaking, shush, you let them speak. You don't gaslight. They'll kick you out faster than to make your head spin. And I love seeing it. I put my little popcorn meme, GIF, whatever. You guys can correct me since you're tech people. I'm, you know, I grew up with MySpace. So anyway, I'm in there with my popcorn, like, let's watch the fireworks. Like, sometimes that's my entertainment, because I know they're going to do the right thing. And so again, I want to shout that out, because they do the right thing. Unlike Pantsuit Nation, because whoa, I'm like,
and they're the norm. They're the norm, though. I mean, most of these online spaces are not safe for women of color,
or even like with Time's Up, or was it Time's Up or Me Too movement? How it just completely got taken over by Alyssa Milano and Rose McGowan, and then they just kind of like rearranged
Rose McGowan.
I know,
oh God, she's so terrible. She's terrible.
Like, I'm still like, I can't, because I really loved The Craft. I'm not The Craft.
I love Charmed.
Yeah, I love Charmed. I loved her character. I'm like, I can
charming.
Isolate the character. I can't do it with Bill Cosby, but I can with her for some reason.
No, she said some really awful stuff. Really, really awful stuff. And she's just kind of gone over the deep end lately. So no.
Yeah.
She's a no.
Yeah, I mean, I Cyndi Lauper, I'm kind of mourning.
Nope, that one's gone too.
I know.
I know. The list is growing of these white women that
are just like, my entire childhood is about
problematic.
To be ruined.
I know.
But Dolly Parton's safe.
Well, she caused that other white women.
Is safe. Oh my God, I love her so much, Jane Fonda and Goldie Hawn.
You might just jinxed her.
No, there's no way. I mean, this woman, she's the one that way back in the 60s, she had. She learned a foreign language in order, or Americans. She did something, because Marlon Brando did it as well, where he brought on a Native American woman to get his award instead of himself, so they could speak out about the atrocities that were going on. But then Jane Fonda did something as well. I just can't remember, because my father worked with her, and when he told me that story, I was like, what? But even she would do, like, with method acting in a way where she would actually go. Not work as a sex worker, but she went and actually would hang out with these women to hear their stories, because she didn't want to make it where they weren't humanized. Like, she really wanted to know, which I want to kind of touch on again, because I feel like because I worked in the beauty industry and I worked in spas, and I know how people talked about, even on the Real Housewives, where they just kind of talked about happy endings in a way where it was so dehumanizing. And I think with the women in Atlanta, a lot of people were able to just kind of, oh, they're sex workers, and not like, clearly that wasn't the case, but even if they were, it's just one of those things where it's like your job doesn't define whether your life is worthy, neither does your race. And, you know, so there's so many like weird things that stereotypes have a level of integrating in your brain where you're just like, that doesn't matter. Like,
well, it's the same thing with George Floyd right now. They're bringing up the fact that he had an opioid problem or whatever. And it's like, that's nothing to do. Right. So they're doing what they normally do, which is they're
but the other guy had a bad day. He had a bad day. He was having a bad day.
Yeah, he had a bad day. So I was like,
sleep it off then. Don't go get a gun that you know, like we can't even. And I guess
the guy, the spokesperson that said that, I guess he resigned. I don't know. Something happened with him. The guy who said that, I don't know. I forgot. But
the chief of police or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like,
ugh. But that's the thing where with the police system, with like you were mentioning earlier within your group, Jolene, how they're talking about getting more senators or congressmen that are Asian. When Camille, I always want to call her Camilla Harris because my name is Kamala. I mean, my name's Camille. Oh my gosh, I got her name right. I'm so dyslexic. You guys know what I mean.
Kamala Harris.
President Harris.
VP, Madam VP.
Madam Harris. Okay, I'll just go the safe route. Well, she's Black, she's Asian, she's everything. No, but like when, now I lost my train of thought because I felt so bad by saying the wrong name.
She's been vilified, but she's been vilified though. She's been vilified. She was vilified when she started running, you know, and then as VP, she's still being vilified, you know, for saying anything.
Speaking up for Black.
Speaking up for Asians, speaking for Black people. Yeah, everything's being criticized.
Is she a race president or vice president? Or she's everybody's president.
Right.
Yeah. Or she slept her way up. That was the other thing.
Yes, I've heard. I read that. Like, I was like, oh, okay.
They didn't even say that about Hillary Clinton.
No. They were too busy. They were too busy saying that, you know, Bill was her fault. That was their thing.
So, but I'm just saying because she's attractive and because she's a person of color, she must have slept her way up. She couldn't be smart enough.
Right.
Camille?
And she's
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I didn't want to miss this opportunity because I imagine that your fans are very inclusive, and it's hard to know for people to know what to do with the Stop Asian Hate, and you have to do something. So even if you have a minute, I'm talking to your audience now, a minute or 5 minutes, learn about the problem and understand that this is happening everywhere, even though it's not recorded. And there are places where you can actually see it for yourself. And I have these resources, and to reach out to your Asian American friends, and then to ask your mom's group, you know, the dog walking group, hey, let's talk about this. And have you seen this? I mean, we need everybody to do something. Tonight I'm doing a how to be an Asian ally, and I'm going to do it every Thursday. Right now, and I have a ton of different resources. Jolene Jang is my website, and my Jolene Jang page is it's a disaster. Like there's so many articles. It's a fountain of information.
Well, but you're willing to do the work, right?
I'm doing the work. It's not super organized right now, but we just need everybody just to talk about it, change your frame, you know, the Facebook frame, and say, when you share an article, say, did you know about this? I had no idea, because you know, some of my friends have shared, but without an endorsement, it just goes, there's no engagement. Right. So you have to say what's interesting about it. Thank you.
I think, like, you know, take it a step further. And we have Easter coming up. There are people who are going to gather, even though they shouldn't. Maybe they'll gather, maybe they'll do Zoom. I don't know. But my point is, anytime that your family is together, having a dinner or having a barbecue, whatever, you bring up a conversation around race. You can talk about what's going on in the news. You can talk about something that you saw, something that the family member said. You need to start, those conversations have to start happening. And they have to start happening at the grassroots level. That means your family and friends. Those are the people that you can, go ahead.
No. Nope. Go ahead. Finish. I do not want to
No, I
interrupt
was
you.
going to say that those are the people that are in your inner circle. So you see them all the time, coworkers, people that you see all the time. Start having those conversations because they can pass every law on the planet. And if we don't see change in those relationships, my daily life won't change. You know, as a Black woman, it's going to be exactly the same, you know, so I need allies. I need them to start having the conversations around the George Floyd trial, the Stop Asian Hate. We really should be saying stop domestic terrorism because that's what's going on in this country. It's domestic terrorism. So have that conversation. Why is it that most of these people are white men? Where's all the talk about that? These are mostly white men that are doing this, you know, so, and that's been a pattern.
Assaults as well. Like it's a,
Yeah.
I mean, like all the violences, the gun violence, the shootings, whether it's race related or towards children. It's
right. We have to start having the talks. We just have to have the conversations. They have to start. They should have started, you know, years ago.
I mean, even I shared today, a few men were saying it's like they no longer need to make it on women or even people of color in that sense to make the change. That is it's their burden to fix.
It's theirs.
So,
I wanted to also mention this because the mainstream news, the ones that we see of the videos of the Asian hate, they are Black men. But I wanted to just mention, okay, so the ones we saw were Black men. However, the stats say otherwise. And so
I find it interesting that the media is doing that too. Well, that's interesting.
You know, it's hard. And first of all, it doesn't matter. Like everybody is in it, like whether it's one or another, but there are stats, at least for last year, that it's 60% white men or something that are doing it. So I just kind of wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you, because I know that, you know, if you didn't know that, you would think it was us doing it. True. You would think that this is Black men doing it, you know, and again, we go back to how the media portrays us, you know, like they're going to choose to show those videos.
I mean, because if I'm the news director, am I going to choose the person that looks most like my son that they're looking for, or the person that doesn't look like my son? You know, in some ways it's self-preservation, but it's wrong. You know, like it's got to be even. You got to show the truth. You got to be consistent. You got to speak up. So
and you know, the one that they just showed who attacked the 65-year-old woman. Had murdered his mother back in 2002. He was on parole. Lifetime parole. He stabbed his mother to death. That's why he was in prison. So on top of, you know, almost killing this 65-year-old woman, he murdered his mother.
So you might have a little bit of a, ooh. Did they both just disappear? Is it just me that's still here? I didn't do anything. Well, it is 8:13. I'll see if they come back in. This has never happened before. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. This is the E-Spot with Camille, and you can keep up with me. I'm here every Thursday at 7 o'clock, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Oh, they're back. Okay. That's so weird because you and
go back in. That's so
you
weird.
and you and Jolene at the same time left.
Yeah, I think it timed out or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I've had 3-hour conversations on here before.
That's weird.
It was a musician. He was like sharing how different it is. He worked on Hannah Montana. Oh. I was just changing her name and then she disappeared again. So I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah, but are we on separate ones now? Are we on separate screens?
Oops, sorry. No, you're going to both be on the same screen. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. No. I needed to fix
that was weird.
Lecia's name.
It's fun.
That was weird.
Yeah, I just need to change your name before I put it back on. Otherwise, it'll be your legal name, if you know what I mean. Oops. There we go. But I do want to be considerate of your time. It is 8:15, so we did go over, but this is such a great conversation. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah. I
I'd
think
love
love
to
to.
keep an update just to see how things are going and progressing, especially with your book and then with Jolene, with all the different things you're doing. And I love that you're bridging it with different communities. And I'm doing a few things with the Black Jewish Entertainment Alliance. So I'll try to make sure that I tag both of you ladies whenever I do things with that over on Clubhouse, which is another reason that I'll be taking a break soon, is that I'm helping out with a lot of other groups because I love getting involved in my community. And now that I can do it on a bigger level virtually, it's like, let me do that and just really try to make the world a better place. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of hearing the stories that my parents grew up with. Is still happening. We're still happening. And they're saying it's more segregated now than it was in the 60s. Like, we don't need to live like this. I lived in Germany. I lived in Holland. I got to see Anne Frank's actual place. Like, no, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be hiding in my closet or my family's closet. And that's what I was going to say also about being married with a white husband, is that I see firsthand how differently he gets treated compared to me, where he doesn't have to give his driver's license to things, where he doesn't have, it's just a time saver sometimes sending him in to go do stuff. Because if I have to do it, there's like all these extra layers or explaining myself, or like you guys were talking earlier, even just like going different places. Like, so it's time that we just build the bridge and do what we can to help all of you, because it's just stupid. It's man-made, and it's time for it to be over and us work together. So thanks again for being my guest on April Fools, because we proved who's the real fool, and it ain't us. So I can't wait to have you guys, or have you ladies back. See, even that, I was getting so good at it.
Yeah, I got dinged on that before.
Everyone. My mom is the one that always catches me, and I'm like, oh, I can't. Okay, boomer. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, of course. The one time I use it, I'm the one that sounds like a boomer because I'm saying all these masculine gender things. So forgive me. I'll get better. Just like everyone else has that opportunity too. Now that there's all the tools to find it.
Yes. Camille, by the way,
please.
Lecia K, the Everyday Gay. Our conversation was really good, but the one that I saw with Lenore Billing Harris talked about all the different terms, and instead of you guys, she has all these different things to say different instead of that. Hi everyone, and like how to swap out your vocabulary to be more inclusive. And
I try this I'm from California too, so like you call everybody dude. And then pronouns didn't exist overseas. So it's like, I already said he for she for he, or dude for girls. And so now I'm like, oh, I really have to work on this. Like now it's a thing. Before, nobody cared. That's just part of Camille's quirky personality. She calls everybody dude, but now like, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. It's a thing. So I'm aging myself just because I like saying dude a lot and guys, and now I have to stop. But I will. So thank you, ladies, again. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but we'll just have to do it again and just dive. I will save all the comments so I can come back to them. So thank you, ladies, so much.
Great,
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
This was a great conversation, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
Yeah. Nice to meet up. Well, I kind of met Jolene before, but not Lecia. All right. So thank you again so much for joining the eSpot with Camille. I am your host. Make sure you follow me right here on Facebook or YouTube, or you can check me out everywhere that podcasts are available. I appreciate you spending your evening with me, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Next week, I will have Kool and the Gang celebration. Mr. Robert Kool will be my guest. I am so unbelievably excited because what is one of their songs? Everybody around the world, it's time to celebrate good times. So let's do that next week. I'll see you there, the eSpot with Camille. Make sure you tell a friend, share with family, friends, whoever. We're a Benetton party over here. So thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.